Hello and welcome. All right, I got a little treat for you guys today. I want to take you through the Focus homepage on the DIY Themes website and show you how I used built-in features in Focus to make a page that is really great. And specifically, I want you to see how you can do this on your own, and you can create these wonderful, vibrant pages that don't require you to use like a page builder or to do other plugins to have certain elements appear a certain way, for example. Basically, I want to show you how you can keep your working environment really simple and get some really rich outcomes and create the kind of pages I know you all want. All right, so let's dive in and take a look. So to begin, we're going to scroll through this page. I'll show you what I'm going to tell you about, and then we'll dive into the details. So at the top of the Focus page, got like breadcrumb trail and a navigation menu. We're not going to focus so much on that, so we're talking about specifically the unique content that appears on this page, which starts with this big focus. I call this an offer section. This is sort of totally custom. We're not going to focus too much on this, but as we go down, I've got a high impact alert box, and then I've got some content, just a basic list. I bold. Notice as we go down the page, you'll see that I've bolded a lot of text. I do that to it's like a staccato sort of input as people, as they scan the page, they're catching these bold little snippets, and that keeps them moving down the page. It keeps it provides some visual interest in a landscape of just endless wall of text. Okay, so the first thing that's notable as we scroll down here, besides this big alert box, is this full width section with the baby blue background. So that's one thing we've got here. Now we've got a video that's wider than the content. That's interesting. There is a caption here with that video. Oh, we got a button. Now we've got another section. We've got a drop cap. Another video. This video stands out off the page. It's got a little, we call that a box shadow. We've got another alert box. This thing has a box shadow too. The alert box I showed you before also has a box shadow. Got another full width section, big image, another caption, another button. You can see this stuff starting to repeat. The elements are repeating, and these are just, multiple implementations of core elements of Focus, core styling elements. Another drop cap, video, another full width section. These are really cool. And so these full width sections, this is something I introduced in Focus in December of 2019. But what makes these so neat is that this is sort of like the holy grail of page design, at least for the last 5 or 6 years. People want these full width sections that, they convey some new thing. Maybe it's just a feature of whatever you're selling. Maybe it's just a little interstitial for an email opt-in form, something like that, but something to set apart this element from the rest of the page. And I'm going to show you how easy this is to do with Focus. And I really don't think it's this easy or this maintainable with anything else that's out there today. So we'll go into those details. One more section. Then I've got, so we see this pattern just repeating, an alert box. And then we've got a testimonial section here. This one's kind of custom, but we'll go into that as well. And then the very last thing we've got, it's like a facts section. I say common questions about Focus with question and answer format. There's a video in there. And that's it. And actually, you can't see the bottom of the page based on how I've got my camera fixed at the moment, but it doesn't matter. That's pretty much the end of the facts section. It's the last unique thing on this page. So anyway, it's a big page. There's a lot here. But it's actually really simple, the tools that I have used to create it. So let's dive in and take a look. So I mentioned this is the top section. We are just not going to worry about this right now. This is like a custom, totally custom thing. So it is not very beneficial to everybody to show very idiosyncratic things. I want to show you the patterns that you will be able to leverage to make what you want. And that pattern starts here with this big alert box. So we will dive in. So here we are in the WordPress post editor. This is the classic editor, and I am viewing it in text mode right now because it keeps things very clear. Just a quick note, so within your user profile settings in WordPress, you can choose to use, I'll show you real quick. You can choose whether or not you want to use the visual editor with this little disable the visual editor when writing. I choose that and disable it. And one reason you might want to do this is because if you are not disabling the visual editor, when you flip to the text editor like this, the formatting and spacing gets all jumbled up. So like all this stuff might be presented on one line without the helpful breaks that help you scan it effectively. And so I find that super annoying. Like I just want to be able to see this in a pure non-stylistic form, and by disabling the visual editor, that's the only way you can get this to have, you know, integrity with the spacing and white space and all that stuff. So anyway, here is the element right here. This thing is called an alert box, and it's I've extended it. I've used the extension Focus Content Style class, which I have a whole nother video on how to use content style classes. So I'm using an alert box. I've extended it to make it extend outside the boundaries of the column of text. And then I've popped it. Pop styling, that's what gives it this box shadow. It makes it pop off the page. So I will show you, I'll flip over here just for if you're new, if you haven't seen my other videos about the content presentation styles, I'll flip over to another sample document, and I've got an alert box here. And we'll flip in here and we'll go to the visual editor. And so if you were just going to do this and you're accustomed to using the visual editor and that's how you prefer to work, you can use these focus content styles to deploy almost all the cool stuff I'm going to show you here. And anything that you can't deploy through this means, you can just flip over to the text editor and do the other stuff. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you how it works in the text editor first. And then I will mention whether or not it can be done with the visual. But for most of these things can be done with the visual editor. So like in this case, for example, this is highlighted. This is a call out. Alert is already selected here. And I could pop it as well. Let's pop it too. Boom, it's popped. We'll update it. We'll go over here. And there it is. It's popped as well. You see how easy that is. You can use the visual editor to do this. I just had to do that little demo to show you that, hey, you don't have to look at this code if you think this is icky or whatever and you don't want to write a couple things in here. You can do this from the visual editor. But I just feel like this is a cleaner explanation to show you this text editor. Okay, so this alert box is no problem. It's extended. It's popped, it's an alert, that's why it's yellow here. You can control that color too in Focus. Easy stuff. And then, as you can see, we just have normal content that you would enter into your posting area, and this continues on down the page. So all the content you see there, almost all of it, is just in the page like it would normally be. What's interesting about this is that typically if we're using something like a page builder or some other plugin to create these more complex styles and these better presentations, oftentimes you've got to go into, you've got to click to go into like a page builder and work on each module individually and give it unique settings, and that creates what I call a customization touch point. So let's say you want to change anything in the future, for example, you've got to go in, find the exact customization touch point you want to deal with, go in, edit it, test it, and then hopefully you're working on the right thing and you're getting the results you want. That becomes kind of cumbersome, especially in the future if you change your design or something like that. You realize your pages don't exist just in one place. It's like one place with like 500 little mini modules you got to go into and deal with. That's a really crappy way to work with pages over time. Much easier and much simpler, in my opinion, if you can just have it all in the posting interface like you're accustomed to doing, or like we've done for 15 years, just have it in here and you sprinkle in the little highlights and stuff you want to get richer, more beautiful outcomes. So that's what this is about. Now, so this is just normal content. Everything's normal content. This would have just been a white background section, but I decided that I wanted to offset each new section that talks about a new topic with a background color or no background color. So it goes from blue to white to olive green to white. You get the idea. I'm trying to break up the sections to keep people moving down the page with interest. So before I made that decision, though, this was all just one big column of content. And then I chose where the breaks would be. And I'm going to go into the first break here, this light blue break. So what these are called, in Focus, these are called full width bleeds. And this is really the hot new feature that makes fancy page design much easier, and just this is like the best way to do it by far. So this is a bleed. So what I did, this is a tags. The bleed is a tag style shortcode. What that means is you've got an opening shortcode declaration, bleed. I've got a style applied here, light blue. That's what gives it the light blue background. And then we've got the closing tag for the bleed here that, that chooses the top and the bottom of the bleed section. It defines the upper and lower boundaries of it. And everything that appears between the bleed tags is going to appear in this light blue section. So that's real easy. And this is just normal content. Now I also have a couple items of interest here. There's a video in this section. And the video is using that pop styling as well that we've already seen. And then there's a caption here. And so a caption can be applied in the same way that we saw with the visual editor. You could go in and select some, you could have a paragraph of text. You could select it and then choose for it to be a caption. If I just selected that, it would change it into a caption. So that's not something that has to be done with code like this. It can be done from the editor, but I've supplied a caption, and then I've also chosen to center it underneath this video that takes up the full width of this, the usable width of the layout. So that is a kind of a fancy thing, but it's really easy to do. You can specify any text you want to become a caption. I recommend having your caption appear immediately after an element like a video or an image, kind of basic, but worth mentioning nonetheless. And now we've got a button in here too. Let's look at this button. So the button is just a link. So I just have a normal link. You could have a link to anywhere. You flip over to the text editor, and then you can go in and add class equals button to make it a basic button. And then I've added save also, and that so a basic button in Focus in a default installation is just going to be gray. You can make that whatever color you want, but a basic button in a new installation of Focus is just going to be gray. I didn't want a gray button here. I wanted something that's going to be visually interesting and also has a color that's kind of different from every other color on the page, so you'll see it. A save button in a default installation of Focus is green. So I wanted to convey the green save button there. So added the button class, added the save class to turn it green, and also to make the text white. That all goes together. And then that's what you get. So it turned a basic, regular link into a really fancy button that is going to take people to the Focus pricing page. So we'll do that real quick so you can see how it works. So there it is, boom. No problem. All right. Now we go back in here, and I also wrapped the button in a paragraph tag with a center class to make it centered. It's kind of academic, but that's how you would do something like that. And then let's keep it moving here. We've got in this next section, this is not a bleed. It is just a regular section of content, but it has the effect of being a separated section because it follows a full width bleed section. A fancy element at the top of this is a drop cap. This is super easy. So we'll go over to our sample page. Here's a drop cap. All I did was highlight the first letter of the first word, go to Focus Content Styles, and choose drop cap, and that will make a drop cap. You can choose more than one letter. You could choose a whole word, for example. Like if you have a short word like if, that's the beginning of your content, you might want to make the whole word if a drop cap. Okay, just different ways to do that. It's totally flexible. Play around with it, and you can see what your options are and what kind of latitude you have. But there it is, easy drop cap, no problem. More bold text as we move down the page. Another video with a pop element. And by the way, the videos on this page are served with an add-on for Focus called the YouTube box. It's a real inexpensive little add-on you can get. What this does is it makes it so your YouTube videos, if you include a YouTube video on your pages, they're fat, they take a while to load, they add a lot of weight to your pages. And so by using the YouTube box, it doesn't add any of that weight to your pages. It creates this big placeholder, and then if the user clicks on this actually spools up the video on demand rather than having it all load up front, which would really slow down your website. So that's just a little nugget there. Got more basic content, nothing fancy about this at all. And then another alert box with a pop styling applied. So you can already see patterns in play here. Another button, exact same thing I showed you before. I just added another one to each section so that, maybe this section spoke to exactly what you wanted and you're ready to go check out pricing. Boom, you'll be able to do that. So anyway, we've got another full width section here. That's a full width bleed. Let's go to this one. This one starts right here. This one's style equal olive. I've called this an olive styled background. Same sort of deal. We've got a nice big image here that shows what people can expect when they're working with Focus. And then I've got another caption. Now I've applied some special custom CSS to make this caption text appear in a color that's complementary to the background that it's on. But like that's, there's very little custom design styling happening here besides like what is basically in Focus. Like this is a tiny little embellishment that's easy and cheap to make. It's also easy and cheap to maintain. So it's not like I had to create all of this unique specialized stuff for my website just because I want it to be a fancy presentation for my fancy product. No, I want to use as many of the patterns already established in Focus as possible because that simplifies my operating environment. It organizes my customization environment by making it as small as possible. And it makes it easier to maintain over time because there's less moving parts. I'm just relying on the foundation of Focus to create beautiful, sustainable web pages, and that is definitely the best way to do it. Okay, so we have passed our olive green bleed section. We have another regular section, drop cap, video. Starting to see some patterns here, no doubt. Bold, button, another full width section. This one's got a yellow background, more bold text, the video, and the button. Another interstitial. Here's a full width section with a pink background. Same sort of deal, another caption, yada yada. Okay, so now we're down to the final two sections. We've got a testimonial section here. Really nothing special about this either, except for I've done some custom coloring on the testimonial quotes themselves to make them a little more clear and to make them very easy to scan. But so far, what the only specific customizations outside of this top area here, which does have some custom components, the only custom stuff I've done is color the captions in a few of these full width bleed sections, and then I also customize some of the color display to make my testimonial area have a little more pop. But that is it. So to have what we already have seen on this page and only have that much totally custom stuff is completely remarkable. Completely remarkable. Even 1 year ago when I launched Focus, my Focus sales page was actually an amalgamation of 3 different content pages in WordPress and quite a bit of custom styling. It was very bloated compared to what you see today. And the page wasn't as good. This is a more visually interesting page. It is a better page. The styles are better. Everything's better. This final section works the same way as the rest of the page, but it's a facts section. And I like to manage, I use a special feature in Focus called Modular Content to manage this because I think it's sort of, I like to be able, if I know that I'm going to work on this specific thing, such as I'm going to modify, I commonly have to modify the information in my fact page or in this fact section. So to make it easy to go in and do that, I've actually separated this bit of content out from the rest of the content here on this Focus page, and I've moved it over to a feature called Modular Content, which we will go look at. And on this, I've got Focus Fact. And this is where all of that content is. And this is specialized markup to get, it uses the fact schema, which Google likes, Google Webmaster Tools specifically, Google Search Console now, likes to see that and will give my pages a little bit of a boost or some special treatment in the search engine results if it has fact markup. So that was another reason why I offloaded this markup intensive stuff, moved it out of the regular page and into its own piece of modular content so that I could manage it more easily. So all my fact is coded up in this thing, and then all I do on the main page is include it through a shortcode reference for modular content. Like that is literally it. This says, hey, publish whatever is in here. And it outputs that on this page. I can use the same sorts of styling. I got the video with the YouTube box. I've extended it. I've popped it. I don't think there's any more alert box in there. So there's really nothing else fancy going on. I do some bolding, contextual bolding, all that stuff. But that is really it. And so, whereas you might look at this and think, oh gosh, there's probably a lot of custom stuff going on there. How's he serving this? How's he serving that? I am just using the built-in features in Focus and repeating some very basic patterns and only sprinkling in a very light amount of customization, just sort of on an editorial basis. And it's easier for me to maintain because there's only just a few things, and I can organize them all in one place in my style sheet, for custom style sheet, for example. Very easy to build and maintain that sort of thing. So anyway, that is just a quick rundown, a very high-level overview of how I create what's otherwise a complex page. This is a big page, lots of content. You don't want just a big wall of text. Nobody wants that. It's not visually appealing. People don't want to scan and try and pay attention through that amount of content. Nobody does that. So it is essential, if you want your pages to work, it is essential that you break them up visually, so that you break them up in terms of their content, in terms of sections. So like you want section headings, this contextual bolding, like I've mentioned, big elements to break it up. All of those sorts of things you want to be able to do, and Focus gives you the tools to do this in a very lightweight manner. I'm not using JavaScript to do this stuff. I'm not using a plugin that's going to load up 22 kilobytes of custom styles and a bunch of JavaScript on every page of my site. No. I've preserved performance absolutely by taking this approach and using what is in the Focus Foundation. And I've done that to create what I think is an incredibly engaging page. It's beautiful. It's dynamic in terms of, it's not just same all the way down, even though there's a lot of patterns in play. And this is all the tools you need to crush it. And what's great about this, what's even the absolute best thing about this, is that it works in a responsive environment without you having to think about it. If you use the stuff that's built into Focus, you can have a responsive environment. We'll set it up like it's an iPhone. You can have your pages will have the same effect. And you won't have to make little responsive tweaks. You won't be constantly bumping into this wall that's so common now, where it's like, oh, I did this fancy thing for my page, I want to showcase my product or my whatever it is I'm offering. And, someone will email you, oh, well, I got a big horizontal scroll bar when I looked at it on a phone, or this element wasn't showing up. And it's like this constant headache of needing to adjust things for responsive design environments. And it's a little cryptic. Like, it's not well understood. At large, certainly not by webmasters who aren't experts in CSS and that type of thing. And so if you use the stuff that's built into Focus, like bleeds, and all the other stuff I've showed you, extensions, popping, captions, all that stuff, it's all already done for you in a responsive environment. It's all going to work. Your pages will have the same effect on a mobile device as they have in a browser. Really, the only difference is, everything's exactly the same between, across all devices. The only difference is it expands to use more available real estate if it's available. And that's really the extent of it. Everything else is same. And that's sort of what makes this so powerful. It's making it easier to create your pages now. It's giving you very clear patterns that you can follow to get the results that you want. And it's cutting down on future headaches in terms of, the responsiveness is done for you and it's done well, so it's going to work. And then, if you need to make changes in the future, your customization footprint is going to be very small and very clear. Your CSS styles will all be in one place and there won't be many of them. The content that's served on this page isn't coming from custom code here and another thing over here, a plugin here, a slider here, none of that stuff. It's all right here in your WordPress admin. Right here in your, where you compose your content. So everything is more straightforward in this type of operating environment. It's all simpler. And I'm sure when I say this, you could think about times in the past when you've had, heavy or convoluted pages that you've made with that involve the use of various plugins. And you're like, oh God, where do I edit this thing? Where do I edit that thing? Like, these questions are ridiculous. It's no way to live. So Focus is actively addressing those exact concerns that you have when you run your website over time. And, the results speak for themselves. This is a wonderfully dynamic page. It's beautiful. It's informative. It's got all the elements you need to really have a significant effect on the visitor. And it's just great. This is how you website. This is how you do it. And I'm showing you, proof is in the pudding here. I am using my software to create the kind of pages that I want to see on the internet. Pages that are fast, that are clear, and that work. And this is what everybody ultimately wants. Once we cut through the mess, we want to do beautiful things. I hope that this presentation has given you some confidence so that you know that I can use the tools in Focus to create beautiful pages. I can get the results I want. I can, put something together that's going to be easy for me to maintain, and that's still going to be beautiful, and that's going to get the results I want. All right? Thanks for watching. If you got questions, drop them in the comments below or stop by my forums if you're a customer. I'd love to talk to you about this stuff and help you make the pages that you imagine that you can make. All right? Take it easy, guys.